everyone, it's Attorney Latrice Knighton, and I'm going to be your presenter today for Evaluating Child Custody, Placement, and Support. Before we begin, I'm just going to take a little break here, about a minute, and wait for a few more people who are going to be joining us. So I'll be back on shortly. Okay guys, let's get started. Again, I'm Attorney Latrice Knighton. I'm a partner here at Sterling Law Offices, and today I am happy to presenting Evaluating Child Custody, Placement, and Support. Now I know you're joining me here today because your kids are very important to you. So before we get started, I'm going to ask one thing of you, and I've already done it, and I know it's going to be hard for some of you, but I'm going to ask you to silence your phones, close your doors, and give yourself an opportunity to learn some new information, because you matter. What happens to you and your kids really matters. And so now is the time to learn some information about what all custody, placement, and support is all about and how decisions are made regarding those issues. And now I want you to stay to the very end, because I'm going to give you some more information about how to get more free information that will impact you, your money, and your kids, as well as your future. So stay tuned, guys. So now I'm going to get started by talking about the top 3 concerns I hear about when I'm meeting with new clients all the time. The first thing that people really worry about is, can my spouse handle the kids on their own? What is going to be the best schedule for me and my kids? And will I be able to agree on what our kids need now and in the future with my spouse? Are we going to be able to reach agreements about extracurricular activities, friends, all of it in the future? From my experience, the key to raising happy kids is happy parents. So parents who are less stressed out and less worried about what's going on with both them and their kids lead to happy families. So you're in the right place right now if you're here because you want to protect your kids. You want to understand what to expect of the process and what you should be doing so that your kids are safe. You want to create a good schedule. You want a schedule that works for you and your kids and your soon-to-be ex-spouse. You want a schedule that reflects what's been going on in your family and what's best for them. And you also know that you want to co-parent. You know that you want happy kids, and happy kids require that the parents find a way to get along in it, or be able to reach agreements. And sometimes that doesn't mean that you and your spouse are going to be best friends, but that you guys are effective together as co-parents. Here at Sterling Law Offices, we do these webinars because we want to help families move forward. And I understand the divorce process is very stressful for families. At Sterling Law Offices, we do 100% family law, and we've gotten a lot of awards for all the hard work that we've done. We are part of lots of organizations who are all about family law, and we appear in front of judges and court commissioners and use all types of experts all the time. And the only reason why we tell you guys this and we brag about it is because we care about you, and we care about what happens to the families that we help, and our caring reflects in the reviews that we get from our clients, which is our top priority. So we get lots of great reviews. You can find out more and read the reviews because they're on our website that come directly from our clients. Our focus is really to get the best outcome for you and your kids by giving you great strategies and preparing you for what's going to happen in the future. There's some truths about kids and divorce. You need to be able to show them that everything's going to be okay, because right away there's going to be some apprehension and nerves for them too, just like they are for you, about what this thing in life is going to look like when you guys have two separate homes. It's always better for you and your spouse to come up with the schedule for your kids rather than leave it up to a judge, because a judge is only going to make the determination by hearing evidence, but it's not always everything. I mean, they aren't going to be able to see and hear everything that's been going on the entire time your kids have been alive. You know this better than anyone. So it's better if you can to come up with an agreement. Now, I know it's sometimes scary, particularly if you've been the parent that's had more responsibilities. Either you've been a stay-at-home parent or you've been a working parent who has just taken on more of the child-rearing roles. But I always try to remind people, unless there are some situations that are clear that the other spouse is going to be unfit, and there are times, so I don't want to discount that at all, that normally a parent can learn some new tricks. If there is going to be a dispute about kids, so even if you're the one who's being reasonable, but your spouse is just not, your divorce case in general is going to be a lot longer, because there's going to be more investigation and time put forth to make sure that your kids' best interests are being represented in court. So now it's time for you to make some tough decisions about custody placement and child support. So we're going to get you started on that. Today it's all about evaluating custody and placement and support, and I'm going to go through 5 tips that you need to start thinking about so you're comfortable with all these different topics. The first tip: it's important for you to come up with more than one schedule for the kids, because you just in general don't know what the final schedule is going to be. You want to think about your kids' age and development when coming up with a schedule. A 13-year-old and a 5-year-old are going to need different types of schedules because they're just developmentally different. Younger kids typically need to see both parents frequently. That doesn't mean that you're doing overnights every other night, but either there's phone contact, Skype, dinner, something, so that they're around their parent. Older kids, especially teenagers, are more wanting to be apart from their parents for a little bit longer period of times and don't want to move around as frequently. You want to make sure that you take in consideration holidays and vacations and school breaks. You know, some people keep the same schedule for all those different things, and some people say, hey, no, over spring or over summer break, we like to take a long vacation and stay with family out of state. You know, those things you really need to start talking about. Now, there are some cases where one parent wants to move and relocate. Those also are harder cases for families for lots of different reasons, because the kids are going through a lot of change. So you're going to have to consider ways to have regular and frequent contact if you're the parent who's moving away. Or if you want to take the kids with you, you're going to have to prepare for divorce in a different process. Most parents come in saying they want 50-50 or primary placement. But there are times where even 50-50 is impossible, and it's not written into the law that, you know, there's presumption that you're going to share 50-50, because that's not true. Shared placement or custody means that one parent doesn't have primary responsibility of the kids, but it doesn't mean 50-50. I work with spouses who have, one spouse is an ER surgeon, and they have, you know, they're on duty 24 hours and prior to they're sleeping, right? So they want a 50-50 schedule, but just based on the 24-hour schedules, you know, on the time that they need to rest before and after, they just can't do 50-50. So sometimes it's not even about that you can't reach an agreement about it, it's just how you title it. So it's more of shared placement, not 50-50. My second tip to you is, after you come up with these different schedules, is to discover ways to resolve disputes about the schedule. So sometimes you may not even be that far off from each other, You can solve all your disputes without a judge using mediation, a parenting coordinator. You might be using collaborative divorce, and they have coaches with that. Or sometimes if the two of you can't resolve it on your own, you're going to have to give information to the judge so they can make the determination. So sometimes you'll have to get a forensic interview, a psychological evaluation, a custody evaluation. And if you're kind of in a tense situation and you need some help, sometimes co-parenting therapy and family therapy is really helpful. You know, there's a couple judges in courthouses that have these huge signs that says kids come first. So, you know, if you and your spouse are disputing the kids, you're always going to have to put forth the reason why your schedule and your plan is in the best interest of your kids, because that's what the court is looking for. My third tip for you is find ways now to improve communication. For some families, communication is not a problem. It might be sometimes awkward or strange, but there's no real breakdown. But if there is a breakdown, sometimes you might actually need a professional to help you learn ways to communicate with your spouse, because maybe they're passive aggressive or maybe they're aggressive and you just don't know how to do that. So sometimes a co-parenting communication counselor is helpful, or a family therapist or a priest or whoever a professional you can use. There are some tools out there. So instead of you guys having to call each other, text each other, and text is probably the worst for most people because text can be misinterpreted. But you can use these tools where you can send each other emails and put things on a calendar and send each other invoices, all through one tool that you guys can go back to the end of time and review, instead of like checking emails, texts, and phone call records. So there's several of them. I just put a list of those down. Some of them have a fee and some of them don't. And I always say that ways to improve communication really about being clear to each other right away, setting up expectations and boundaries. Because even if you use those tools, if you have poor communication or you don't have clear boundaries, the two of you can continue to battle. I had a case when I was actually a guardian ad litem, so it represented the kid's best interest, and the parents would fight over everything on using one of those tools. So they were fighting before then, and they started using those tools to continue to fight. They even fight out about making sure the kid came back in the same white undershirt. I don't want that to be you, because that was a really high conflict divorce, and the kids really felt that. The fourth tip for you I would give is to create now a list of activities and expenses that you think you're going to have for the kid, to see if you're on the same page. Because sometimes one of you has done that. You've done the sign up, you've determined the activity the kids are in, you understand the expenses, and then the other spouse doesn't, or hadn't done it, doesn't know what it is. So you want to come up with an agreement on what the activities you guys believe the kids should be in now and in the future, what the costs of those activities are, including equipment. And if there's a dispute, some parents don't want their kids playing football, and some see that entirely as being okay because they played before. You want to figure out if there's a way to resolve that. Most people know what child support is, but don't know what variable expenses. Child support covers basic needs such as housing, utilities, and food. Variable expenses is everything else. So what I just talked to you about with extracurriculars, that's what that covers. Fifth tip is you should try to calculate child support now, so you at least know, if you're living apart, what you may receive from your spouse. Child support is calculated based upon your gross incomes. So not what your paid, your net is, but your gross per year. And the only way to determine it is also to determine what the schedule is going to be. So like I said earlier about coming up with different schedules, you will need to possibly come up with different child support calcs, because it's going to be based on both income and schedule. And each state has their own child support calculator. We have the calculators on our website, but if you want, you can Google them too. So if you're going to do it on your own, make sure you count the overnights to calculate child support, and then make sure that you are really considering variable expenses, because those can add up. You can have a conversation about them. So my 5 tips for getting clear on custody placement and support. You need to come up with multiple schedules for the kids. Determine ways to resolve disputes about the schedule and kids in the future and now. You need to learn ways to communicate or improve communication. You need to understand the activities and expenses for the kids, and then calculate child support. Because I know that when people are going through divorce, they're uncertain about what they can afford to apart because they only knew what they could afford when they're together. If you have any more questions about custody placement and support, you can always schedule an individual strategy session where we sit down together and go over the details about your family and about your situation, and we talk through all the different strategies you can take that are best for you and your family and based on what you tell us. If you want to schedule one of those strategy sessions, you can go to our website now. It's www.sterlinglawyers.com and schedule a session. Otherwise, I will see you next time on another webinar or a seminar. I'll see you guys soon. Everyone take care.